What's up, everybody, and welcome here for another edition of Tortora and
Alfred.
hanging out with you, myself, Dan Tortora, and my guy here,
Isaac Alfred.
hanging out with you inside of the Wake Up Call studios because Tortora and Alfred is part of Wake Up Call's family inside of Dan Tortora Broadcast Media, bringing you Syracuse Orange football and basketball talk every single season with Isaac and myself. We are here inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin' to chat about Clemson and Syracuse, with Clemson Tigers coming into town up against the Syracuse Orange. Who would have thunk it? But Syracuse is 4-0. And the Clemson Tigers are 2-2. 4 weeks into the season and out of the college football playoff already are the Clemson Tigers. So very interesting scenario that we have as we look at this season. Isaac, what are your thoughts at a 2-2 Clemson Tiger team coming into town?
Well, just watching that first game against Duke, to me, the eye test. I mean, yes, Clemson, they got the athletes and they still got the high caliber, kids coming into the program, but it's just still something again, it could have been the first game of the year. I get it. And I think they're a lot better. I mean, they should have probably beat that Florida State team last week. But, it's just something about the eye test of looking at the caliber of the guys that you normally see Clemson have at the wide receiver position. Defensively on the back end, you kind of, it just look a little different. Not to saying that the kids are bad, but it's just not the same as what we always come to know the Clemson team. Big, lengthy receivers, some good skill guys back in the back end of the secondary. I mean, they still got some good corners and stuff, but maybe the safety position is not what it used to be. Maybe, linebackers are still a good group and stuff. D-line, we had a lot of guys leave.
Yeah.
For the league. So it might not be as a high caliber as they normally would be, but still, again, some highly rated guys. But, quarterback, is a new position. Like I will tell you, coming into the season, I prefer to have a starter that has some experience behind his belt. But now they're starting new. The quarterback had a couple of games last year. He got in and played well, but it's different when it's your show. You know what I'm saying? We've seen that many times here at Syracuse when everybody always loved the backup, but when it's his time to shine, and, sometimes it don't always go as planned. So
No, and they did the same thing. Everybody loves the backup you talk about to Jim Boeheim when everybody wanted Mike Hopkins to step in, and then Mike Hopkins stepped in for the 9-game suspension that Boeheim had. And went, I believe, 4-5, and people flipped out,
right?
And they're like, "Oh man, this is gonna be our future coach. He's terrible, blah." And then he leaves, and they're like, "Well, where did he go? Why is he gone?" And it's like because he got a little taste of what his entire life was gonna be like.
Exactly.
And this man was like, "I'm not playing these games with these people," but it's the reality. Everybody loves the backup until the backup becomes the starter, and then they're like, well, who's his backup?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same thing with Dungy, and listen, Terrell Hunt to Eric Dungy to Tommy DeVito, Garrett Schrader coming in. And even when Schrader struggles, people are like, all right, well, what does Carlos Del Rio Wilson, what does he have to offer? What can he do? Oh, this Braden Davis guy is coming in. What's he all about? So, it always is that world. You're right. That people are looking to the backups and what's the backup going to do and how's the backup going to make this team better. When in actuality, sometimes it takes, and I know that this is hard for people to understand in 2023 where AI wipes your butt for you, but things take time. Relationships take time. Friendships take time. I didn't like Isaac 5 years ago. He was a total nuisance. I was like, please don't sit by me. And no, I'm kidding. But, friendships take time. Relationships take time. Business partnerships take time. Marriages take time.
Right.
There's a reason why 90 Day Fiancé is wonderful to watch, but almost never works out because it's a train wreck. And it makes no sense why anybody would get married in 90 days. I still look back to when I got married 9 years ago, and I'm like, I needed more time. And so I was like, can I have the 90 times 90 days? But the reality of it all is everything good takes time, and people don't want to do that in this microwave society anymore. But you have to understand that Clemson, a few years ago, had to reload. They lost all 4 defensive linemen. And people were like, oh my God, this team sucks. They went 10-3, and people were saying it's a bad year. It's an off year. Dabo should be fired. Dabo joked about it the next ACC kickoff. His student athletes joked about, oh yeah, we were ready. I think one of the linemen said, yeah, we were ready to throw the coach out the window. We were going to pack his bags for him. But that's what it is. 10-3 is a bad year, for Clemson. Now, that means you set the bar high, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But it also means that you have very foolish and selfish fans. And I mean, if Syracuse went 10-3 every year, so fans would dream about something like that. But if Syracuse went in 10-3 3 years in a row, then people would say, when are we going to win a championship?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that conversation comes up depending on where you're seated at. And I do want to make it totally a joke. This is one of the best people that I know. He's a brother of mine. And we'll just say that the people that sat us next to each other made a big mistake, but good for us.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, everything good in life takes time. And unfortunately for Clemson, gosh forbid, they're going to have to take a season to grow, and then they'll probably be a national championship contender next year.
Yeah, and I found it interesting that the stat they show on TV is that they didn't even take any transfer portal kids. That's just not Dabo's style, I guess, right now. Maybe he might change his mind in the future, and they also lost a lot of kids. That's the other thing with the portal. You probably had some good guys,
They lost a lot. Alabama did too.
Yeah, exactly. You probably had some good guys in your depth. And now with the transfer portal, those guys are like, all right, I got my opportunity. I'm going to go to Virginia. I'm going to go to Wisconsin. I'm going to go wherever, And now when you probably need somebody to step up, you don't have that guy you can look back and say, all right, now it's your time to get in there and do it. So
you can't build depth if everybody fighting for a job that didn't get it decides to leave before they get the job.
Exactly.
Right? Like, think about it as a business. 10 people go out for CEO that work in the company. One person gets the CEO, the other 9 people quit.
Right. Or go find some other job. And it's going to go to another place where they're not going to fight other people for that same position. It doesn't make sense.
The reality of it all is when you shy away from challenges in life and adversity, you end up running to a point where you eventually realize there's nowhere else to run to. And now you're all by yourself. I mean, what do they say? The more a kid transfers, the harder it is for them to graduate. Because whenever somebody transfers, Syracuse, you might have 39 credits at Virginia, but Syracuse might say it's 37. Rutgers might say it's 25. USC might say it's 30. So now you're sitting here going, okay, I got to take 3 classes that I already took because these ones didn't translate over. Then I'm going to transfer from Virginia to Syracuse. Then I'm going to go from Syracuse to Oregon. Then I'm going to go from Oregon to Kansas. And at the end of it all, you're supposed to graduate in Kansas, but you can't graduate because you had 9 credits that didn't transfer over, but you don't want to take more classes. So, I mean, people forget about that side of it too. When you run, you affect your ability to graduate. When you run, you affect your ability to handle any adversity in life, which creates a society we have now where when people lose, they just change the rules. It's like, it would be like watching Syracuse play Clemson and Clemson wins 38-31 and Syracuse goes, we don't like that. And then Clemson and Syracuse go, okay, we're going to play another 2 quarters. And then Syracuse wins and Clemson goes, I don't really agree with that. So then they're going to restart the game and then they're going to play on Sunday.
Right.
That's the world we're living in. That's the country. That's the government we're living in. We're living in a society right now where a party can lose the majority in the judicial branch and say, we're just going to make more judges. We're going to continue to open judge seats until we get the majority. That's insane. But what it's telling kids is you can run, you can keep. I mean, look at the perfect example is Tate Martell. Tate Martell's at Ohio State at quarterback. They say, Tate, guess what? Justin Fields, this guy that we like, we're going to bring him into Ohio State. He says, well, I'm not going to stay then because I want to start. Why'd you bring in this guy? So he runs down to Miami and he goes, I'm going to start in Miami. And then he doesn't play that well. Tyler Van Dyke steps in and he starts playing, and then you never hear about Tate Martell again.
Yep, exactly.
Did Tate Martell get a degree? Probably not. Did Tate Martell ever start? Maybe in the beginning, but not after that. Did he learn anything about life? probably that you shouldn't run. But that's the thing that we live in with the transfer portal. And I said this before in Tortora and Elford. If Clemson and Syracuse, or pardon me, if Clemson and Alabama are losing the amount of numbers that they're losing in the transfer portal, and right after spring practice, right after spring ball, when you're getting closer and closer to the season, what that tells me is this transfer portal is no longer about going to a better situation. This transfer portal is more and more becoming about the money and the opportunity and the selfishness of it all, because leaving programs like Alabama and Clemson say one of two things to me. Either one, you had a really bad experience, somebody lied to you, or two, you can't sit here and argue that you want to win a national championship, you're going to go somewhere else. If you're leaving Alabama and Clemson right now, what you're telling me is somebody in the portal got to you and you drank the Kool-Aid.
No, exactly.
Essentially.
Exactly. And I was just thinking about you talking about grades and stuff or getting your degrees. I thought I heard somewhere there, so like Stetson Bailey, the quarterback for Georgia, he was there for how many years, and they say he left now NFL, but he didn't graduate. So
yeah, they said that he was there for what, 5-6 years,
about 5 or 6 years,
and he still didn't get a degree.
Right, so that's crazy, But hey, he got a couple of titles, but
yeah, but guess what?
That's kind of like your point. Is it about school, or is it about just trying to find a team to raise your platform or whatever the case may be?
And when you go to get a job and they say, where are your credentials? Give me your resume. Give me your degree. And you go, I won 2 championships. That Fortune 500 company is going to say, I don't give a crap about that.
Yeah.
It's like, that's
unless you're in the state of Georgia, maybe. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if you're applying to, it's like, I want to be a lawyer. Why? Well, I won a championship with Georgia. Maybe if you're down in the South, how
we do that.
Oh, we'll bring him in. Yeah, why not? Bring him in. What do you know about law? Nothing. But I won a championship at Georgia. And, but this is the thing you got to recognize, too, when you go into that boardroom and you have that meeting and you're down in the state of Alabama. And you say to them, I won a championship in college. And they say, what education? You go, education. Roll Tide. And they lean into you and they go, War Eagle, baby.
Oh, I know, right?
And then you're like, uh-oh, I guess my mom was right. Should have gotten an education. That's the ridiculousness of it. But get your education, kids. I know it might sound crazy that you go to school to get an education, but that's what school is meant for. Get your education. You could be the best player in the world, and even Tom Brady is no longer a football player anymore. So, get an education, get a plan for your future, and stop running away from competition. We live in this society, and again, I tell people this all the time when they say, why is America so backwards now? Why don't people fight for why don't they work toward their money? Why don't they fight for something they believe in? Because these kids that are now in college, running all over the country, committing to nothing, having a bunch of verbal commitments, and then going back on their verbal commitments, then signing, then saying, no, I'm kidding, then signing somewhere else, then transferring. Who are those kids? They're the same kids you gave a trophy to when they came in 15th place in the tournament. You created these kids, and America, we created soft kids. We created a soft society that's triggered by everything, and every time I say that word, I want to blow it up, but triggered. And so, every time I hear triggered, I just think about, who was it? The coyote in like Warner Brothers. And every time I hear triggered, I just want to be like, but
blow it up.
Yeah, put the dynamite out in the desert, right?
Bring out the Acme dynamite.
It's ridiculous. But so yes, but all these kids now that are in this society that you wonder, why don't they show up to work? Why do they go to training and then they never show up for their first day? Why don't they work that hard? Why, when I tell them to get off their cell phone, they say, I don't care? Why are they okay being on unemployment? Why are they living in their parents' basement at 35? Why don't they ever clean their socks? Because you gave them all a trophy their entire life.
Right.
So they don't know the difference between first place and 18th place because you told them it was the same. So now they believe there's not one CEO in a company, there's however many they want to be. I can be CEO, my friend can be CEO. It's ridiculous. When you go into a company, there is a hierarchy. We taught these kids in life there is no hierarchy. They can just do nothing and gain something. You can be whatever you want to be. You can be. But there's a caveat to that. You can be whatever you want to be, thanks to God. The caveat, you actually have to work to be that thing that you want to be. You can be whatever you want to be, but you can't be it by doing nothing.
Right.
And what we're doing by giving everyone a trophy and allowing no rules and restrictions on transfer portal and name, image, and likeness is that we're taking things that could be good or could be teachable moments, and we're just turning it into the Wild Wild West. And
yeah, I mean, some
Stupid.
kids just don't know how hard it is to be. There's somebody out there grinding harder than you, or you might be thinking, I'm doing the same thing. I should be on that same level. Where the other guy, he's putting in the effort, putting in the film time, putting in the extra hours out to practice, and doing everything he needs to do, because that's going to determine the difference between the kids that go to the next level and the kids that just going to be just sitting here, like, all right, where can I transfer next? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you got to put in the effort, and those that do will get rewarded for it. But it's just like you say, it is a little bit, a little soft that hey, I just got to do this amount, and I should be able to get whatever I think I'm owed. But
I feel like today's society is like they show up with their duffel bag, they put it down in the practice field, and they go, "I'm here," and coach goes, "Okay," and they say, "Well, I should be the starter," and coach says, "Why?" And they say, "Because I'm here." And coach goes, "And there's 99 other people here too," and they said, "Yeah, but I'm here." And coach said, "And there's 99 people over here. How many times are we going to say the same thing over and over again? You got to go to work." That's what people don't understand. If you want something in life, I didn't become the president and CEO of my company because I slacked off, because somebody did it for me, and because I thought it was owed to me. I had to build this thing from the ground up through thin air, molding the air in front of my face with God at my side and me doing this. God and I together by ourselves most of the time. And I commend everybody who works for what they have. When you don't work for what you have, you can't value it as much.
Right.
And it bothers me that we're in this society now where people are running out of Clemson, and you can't sit here and say to me, "Well, I left Clemson because it was a bad opportunity." Let me just paint a picture. I think this one example could tell all of you people that don't believe in adversity and run from every challenge in your life and think you're going to be successful and live a life of value by doing that. I'm going to tell you a story about a little place called Alabama. It's a place in Alabama called Tuscaloosa. There's a team there called the Alabama Crimson Tide. And there once was a time in an old fable not too long ago where the first, second, and third string quarterback in Alabama were Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, and Mac Jones. Each of those guys played at Alabama. Now, granted, Jalen Hurts eventually transferred, but there was a time where three of these gentlemen were together in the same quarterback room in Alabama. And now, all three of them are starting quarterbacks in the NFL. 32 franchises, 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL in the world, and three of them were on the same team as the first, second, and third string. So what does adversity and working hard for your turn teach you? Well, in the case of Alabama, you got three starting quarterbacks that were all trying to beat each other. But in today's America, all of those guys could have one of them could have been the starter, and the other two could have ran somewhere else. And look at what it would have been. Now, I know Jalen Hurts left. I know after he got injured, he left. So I know that you could say, well, Dan, he left and this and that. But he at one time was in that room, and he at one time fought for that job. And I don't believe he counts in the example against me because he fought Tua for a while. So it's not like it wasn't the Tate Martell, Justin Fields, Tua's coming in and you don't even practice against the guy. So or Justin Fields coming in with Tate and you don't even try. These guys were in the same room. They were fighting for the same job in one school, in one place. and now every single one of them has earned the starting job in the NFL. So when you tell me adversity can't make you, prove me wrong when you got 3 starting quarterbacks from the same quarterback room in
Same
Alabama.
program, yeah. And sometimes you just got to wait your turn. That's what it really is about. I mean, you can learn and grow as a player just by watching others, and your time's going to come if you put in that time and the work and the training. Because I was just thinking about when you were saying that, not that the transfer portal was a big thing, but back in the days, the USC program was churning out quarterbacks like that. I'm not saying they all was in the same room, but I was just thinking of Matt Leinart, and all those guys like that came through that program. You just got to wait your turn. Sometimes you got to play. Because when you're gonna make it to the next level, whether you could be Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and guess what? You ain't gonna. Some people just ain't. You ain't gonna take the job from the guy that's ahead of you. You just got to sit back, play your position,
Wait your turn.
and then hey, when your opportunity comes, don't let it pass you by. That's basically what it comes down to. You can't just sulk and say, okay, you're not gonna give me a shot. I'm out of here. So, but everybody, there's a reason for everything. But again, you don't want to be that guy that just, like you say, just quit and just quit because of some adversity or whatever the case may be. You never know what can happen in the season. How many times we've seen it when we lost our starting quarterback.
Yeah.
We were down to the third or fourth string quarterback in some seasons.
Yeah.
Those guys, you never know. So.
Well, and how many times has it happened when one of these guys runs away from a quarterback competition and then that team happens to have their guy go down and they need somebody else? I mean, think about Alabama right now. They played 3 different quarterbacks. They still can't figure out who the dominant guy is.
Right.
It's just, to me, the reality of it all is there is something about life, and I feel like I call it the God factor. There's something about life where when God is trying to teach you a lesson and you refuse to learn it, he will make sure that lesson comes to your doorstep. And how many times have we seen that where a guy will run from, okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to fight for this job in Oregon. And then 3 weeks into the season, Oregon quarterback goes down and you're sitting here going, dude, you could have started.
Exactly.
I mean, think about the case with, what was it, Kelly Bryant? And so Kelly Bryant runs away from the situation, and then was it Trevor Lawrence who was it that got? It was like, but was it Trevor?
No, Trevor came in after Kelly, but
no, it was Kelly, and it was what? No, it wasn't Deshaun.
No, he was gone already.
But there was 2 guys there, and Kelly was fighting for the job, and he lost the job. He literally left and within a couple.
Might have been Trevor.
I think it was Trevor.
Then,
yeah, because I think the reason why I say that because I think it was the game where one of the Syracuse guys knocked him out of the game, and so because then you were sitting there going, okay, if Kelly had waited a couple weeks, he would have gotten the starting job.
Right. Yeah.
And you sit back and you think about that, and you say to yourself, how many times has something like that happened? But to go back to the whole reason why are we talking about this? Because Clemson right now is struggling, but folks, they're not going to struggle forever.
No, they're getting better each week. They're beginning. Like I said, they should have won that game last week if it wasn't for baby. I don't know how you bring in so much talent, but you can't bring in a kicker. They had 4 years to recruit a kicker, and special teams will cost you if you're not prepared.
As Syracuse, they struck gold with how many punters in a row, and then they had 2 years of madness.
Yeah.
So, you think about that. It must be easy to find a punter. Or you talk about coaches don't want to waste a scholarship on a punter. I tell you something, I bet you Dino never thinks about not wasting a scholarship on a punter again.
Exactly. Like what they say, it's all 3 phases,
Yeah.
And when something, if it always finds you, like you say, here's that backup player that's in, I think of a baseball, hey, the shortstop, the backup is in, first play of the game, the ball goes to the shortstop. Like all three outs come from the shortstop positions. So you're always gonna get tested at your weakness. It just seems that's funny. Hey,
it'll always find you.
Yeah, and the kid makes the kick in the beginning of the game. And they're like, all right, we're rolling.
Yeah,
gets them to a 30-yard field goal at the end, and look what happens.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no, and that happens with everything. You look at it it could be any team, pro, high school, college. It could be, literally any sport. But you watch it and you say to yourself, okay, this team's good on special teams and they're good on defense. So then what happens? Their offense gets down in the red zone and all they got to do is score to win the game. They can't score.
Yeah.
And then it happens again, and then it happens again. And eventually you see it. I mean, that's the thing. If there's a crack in your ship and you say, well, the rest of the ship is intact, water's still getting in the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And if you leave the crack there, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually, even if it takes a while, that one crack will sink the ship while you're sitting there saying, but the rest of the ship is fine. It's like having a hole in your roof and going, but if you're in this room, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in my son's room, well, you have a skylight. And you get pooped on by birds in the morning.
Exactly.
And you just got to hope. It's like this is how some people think about football teams and about life and about sports. It's like having a hole in your ceiling. They're like, I don't know why everybody's complaining. It's fine.
Until it comes
Until it rains.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, so what is your plan? It's like, well, just hope it doesn't rain. And what does God do? Eventually, he makes it rain.
Mm-hmm.
Because the lesson is you need to patch up that hole in your ceiling and figure things out.
Yeah.
And I don't think that a team like Clemson or a team like Alabama, I don't think the best teams in this country can continuously get into the college football playoff and win it if the transfer portal continues to be open holes in the ceiling and nobody is willing to sit there and patch them up.
Yeah.
I think that what you're seeing in the transfer portal is you're saying, okay, well, it's evening out the playing field. Yeah, in a way it is if Clemson and Alabama aren't as good. But what it's also doing is it's making every team susceptible to essentially having to start over every year.
That hole is in your ceiling now. You thought you had it patched up going into the next year because I redshirted this guy.
Yeah.
I built him up the whole season. He's ready to go. He just went through spring practice. He's looking good. Depth chart comes out. He's number 2 still, but hey, he's going to get some time. But he's not satisfied.
So he leaves.
So now you got a hole again.
Right. I mean, that's like Clemson. It's like, okay, well, we have Trevor. Mm-hmm. So Trevor, then DJ. Mm-hmm. DJ, then Klubnik. But now DJ left, so now Klubnik's in. Is Klubnik prepared? Maybe not as well as he could have been.
Right.
But now you turn around and then Dabo could be like, well, I don't feel like I'm confident in the guy behind Klubnik, so now I got to go recruit 2 quarterbacks in this new cycle because now we're not prepared for the future. Yeah. We're not ready. You look at Alabama, they could turn around and say, okay, Will Anderson Jr. is gone, so then we bring in this guy. Well, the 3 guys behind Will Anderson Jr., his backup steps up, but the 3 guys behind him, they're like, screw it, we're not waiting. We want to go to the NFL like Will did. So then they leave Alabama. So now Nick Saban's sitting here thinking to himself, I had my D tackle for the next 5 years. Now I got a D tackle this year, and I don't know what the hell to do after this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the key part in recruiting. It's going to be even more. It's going to get a bigger spotlight when you miss. Like you said, there's not always a Trevor Lawrence. There's not always, the next great linebacker or whoever you got coming up through the pipe. If you think the kid is everything through potential, okay, yeah, potential is one thing.
Right.
But then you get him on the field, and if he's not performing to your expectations, then now what you do? You got to pull the ripcord. You got to. Now it's an emergency. We trying to figure out what we're going to do, trying to fill this spot. So. That just going to just make it even harder. It might, like you say, level the playing field a little bit. Maybe the elites won't have those power squads as they normally do, but but then now somebody's job going to be on the line because they didn't bring in that recruit, or that team is not as great as they thought they were.
And what people don't realize is what you said. Okay, well, here I am at Syracuse. And I'm not the starting linebacker. So I'm going to go to LSU. Mm-hmm. But you're going to be using as an example, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, I'm just using it as an example. Deuce Chestnut looked like a stud at Syracuse. Mm-hmm. Deuce Chestnut, stock kept rising at Syracuse. Deuce Chestnut going to the NFL from Syracuse. Deuce Chestnut, week 1, got obliterated by Florida State, who kept testing him, because now you're in the SEC, my dude, and now you're out here playing these games, and you're playing Florida State, who you should know how to beat. But your boy Jordan Travis, who stuck around, he got better. And so with Deuce, it's like Deuce was at the top of the mountain in Syracuse. Now he's a guy at LSU that could lose his starting job.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's like when the NFL's looking at Deuce Chestnut and they're looking back at some of these games, they're going to say, wow, man, you looked great at Syracuse, but you got completely used and abused by these receivers out here when you were at LSU.
Or the coaching staff. I mean, again, what they always say about a DB, you got to have a short memory.
Yeah.
You're going to get beat every once in a while. But like you say, though, Syracuse, we know what we got in you, and we going to believe in you. Yeah, some things may happen, but down in LSU, they're going to be like, all right, the next man up.
Right. I mean, the way that Deuce had in that debut against Florida State, I'm like, if he has 2 more games like this, he's going to be on the bench. They're not going to go 4 games. You think the LSU Tigers fan base is going to put up with a DB getting beat for 4 games? They'll put up with it they'll see you in a game and go, who the hell is this guy? Then they'll see you in a second game and go, all right, the third game, they're going to be begging for you to transfer. And that's the thing. And again, it's not a thing. It's not an attack on Deuce. It's using Deuce as an example that if it doesn't work out, which I hope to God it does, and I hope he gets the NFL, and I hope that this decision ends up being a better one for you, Deuce, and I hope it's good for you and your family forever. I truly pray that. It's just the reality of you could be running away, and now you're a backup. You're running away, and now this scheme doesn't work for you.
Right.
You know, I was talking to my guy after the game here just a little bit ago, Justin Barron, and Barron said a lot of people don't run our defense. So, you know, it's like, Deuce, when they put you up in the SEC, they're going to tell you you're going to play man, and you need to beat that guy. You need to stay on that guy. We're not going to do a scheming thing. We're not going to do a zoning thing. We're going to put you toe-to-toe with that dude, and you need to man up, and you need to jump his route, and you need to be faster than him, stronger than him, more physical than him, better than him. Where in the 3-3-5, Deuce had more on the back line. He had more help. He had different things that he could do. You know, a 3-3-5 defense and anything else is going to be different. Sure. And in the SEC, you got guys where they're gonna say, "Hey, coach, put me on him one-on-one. I'm gonna beat him down the field." And then Deuce has to really show, do you have an island, or did you have an island in the 3-3-5?
Right.
Because then coaches in the NFL are going to say, well, we could draft this guy, but there's only 4 of us teams that can draft this guy and make it work. The other 28 teams, we don't have a scheme for him.
Yeah, and that's what it really do come down to, is all about schemes. And you can see that in NFL. I mean, you know, Richard Sherman works great in the zone or whatever it might have been, but everybody always portrayed him not as the man-to-man guy.
Yeah.
You know, it was just a scheme that they ran in Seattle. So he goes to San Francisco or wherever, you know, it's a different, totally different. So, you know, and that can happen, but, you know, you're right. I mean, you in this defense here in Syracuse, it's making you look good, and you are a quality guy, but you get in a different scheme where they're like, all right, you just, like you say, all by yourself. You know, hey, one misstep here or there, and then the guy's got you, you know, and then, hey, now everybody's questioning it. Now you becomes a guy that's, hey, that's the guy from Syracuse.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they love to say when it's not going right. Now it's, you know, you're the guy from Syracuse. They're like, okay, whatever.
And right, and that's the thing. It works both ways. It's the same thing with Braylon, who comes onto the team on the defensive line. Everybody goes, oh, you got him from Alabama. He transferred from Alabama. Mm-hmm. He's not out there.
Right.
He's not in the 2 deep.
Right.
So that guy came from Alabama, and maybe what Dino and the crew realized was there's a reason why he didn't start at Alabama, and he's not starting for us.
Right, right.
You know, and it could be, hey, he doesn't understand the scheme. It could be, hey, he's just not ready. But just because Syracuse got a transfer from Florida, from Alabama, from Tennessee, from Texas, that doesn't mean anything. Because what it could mean is hey, this guy didn't play because Coach Saban saw something, Dabo saw something, you know, whoever saw something about this guy, and Syracuse brings him in because fans will look at that. They can't remember the name, but they could tell you he's from Michigan.
Right.
But then it's like, okay, well, Dan Villari, prime example. Dan Villari was a backup quarterback at Michigan. Maybe he was never going to play at Michigan at quarterback. So he becomes a tight end. So now the question becomes, as he works hard and he does what he needs to do, how he can excel here. But he even told me, he said, coming in and having that conversation with Coach Beck, when he said to move a position, you know, he wanted me to move positions and he thought it would be good for me. He said that was initially, it was a hard thing to take in. You have to deal with that.
Yeah.
You have to stomach that. You have to think about that. So Villari's already like, okay, it's not working in Michigan. I got to go somewhere else. I don't think this is a good fit. He comes to Syracuse right after he leaves Michigan, and Syracuse says, you got to switch positions. And now he's thinking, did I make the right decision? Should I have left Michigan? So this young guy is a couple years into his collegiate career and getting his education, and he's been put in a position in Michigan where it's like, okay, I might never be the quarterback. And then he comes to Syracuse. He's like, I might never play quarterback for the rest of my career, let alone be the second string or third string. I might never be a quarterback again. So now I got to train my body to be a tight end. Now you're thinking in my future, can I be a good enough tight end to make the NFL? Is this a good decision for me? Should I play defense? Keep in mind, folks, Marlowe Wax Jr. came in as a running back linebacker. He could have played running back. And if he had played running back, would he be as good of a running back as he is a linebacker?
Right.
So life is about decisions, and I think that in these cases, in certain instances, you see Michigan, you see Florida, you see Alabama, and you think, oh, this guy's going to come in and he's going to tear it up because we got him from Alabama. And it's like, maybe Alabama didn't want him anymore.
How many times have we seen a quarterback, even before the transfer portal, but just transfer traditional coming from wherever, and we're like, oh yeah, we got this guy from Oklahoma, we got this guy from wherever.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, okay, we see why we got this guy, you know.
Right.
So,
well,
and then in the other cases though, some of these guys are good athletes where they have the flexibility that they can move to other positions. You know, hey, Schrader was a wide receiver for Michigan State after Mike Leach took over that program. You know, but you know, again, you know. Athletes can move, but then sometimes, you know, in your heart, you know what you really are.
Yeah.
So, you know, some people are going to fight for what they want to be.
Right. And when Justin Barron came into Syracuse, he came in not to be a rover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he might have not even been familiar, like exactly what that was.
Right.
And here he is, you know, playing the rover position, and he's a leader out there. And what do I know about rover? This is how I define rover. Whatever Justin Barron's asked to do on any given play, he's relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So he's made Rover an important position because of him and what he's done. So, you know, it's like, yeah, certain guys can fit in anywhere. Other guys have to have the right scheme. But the reality of it all is you have to work for your job. And again, you know, bringing up different players' names for the context of where they came from, it's not a knock on anybody.
No.
At all. You know, Braylon coming in and not starting, that was my thing in my head was everyone's going to see Alabama and they're going to say Syracuse got a 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of it all is you don't see him in the 2 deep. So he might be taking a little bit longer. He's not doing what he needs to do in practice, whatever it may be, but he's not out there.
You just got to learn the playbook,
right.
too. There's a lot of guys. You come into a situation, I mean, again, the kid from Nebraska, you know, we laughed and joked about, you know, the late transfer in this. But, you know, he just learned the 3-3-5 this spring with Nebraska, and now he's in. He got guys ahead of him. And he was a leader of the team on the defense in Nebraska. Not to say he's not a good player, but it just takes time.
Right now he's playing special teams.
Exactly. Here. You know, it takes time to gel with the new team, you know. And then, I mean, you know, I'm saying it's seniority, but I mean, it's the best athletes going to play. But there's some guys that already locked their positions down. It's not going to be fair for them. They're like, all right, yeah, we got this kid from Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I recruited you, but yeah, you go sit down and he's from Alabama. Okay, I got it. But, you know.
And that's the thing with Dennis Jacquez Jr. is you sit here and say, okay, him and Terry Lockett, they're out here learning, and they're under, you know, Dino, and they're learning about the scheme, and so you bring in Braylon, but is Braylon more prepared than these guys?
Right.
I mean, how many times have you seen it when there's an expansion team in the NFL and they can pick from all these rosters and they take a bunch of guys? David Carr, Derek Carr's older brother, David Carr comes out for the Houston Texans. He's what, a number one pick? He comes out behind this line, and you got 5 offensive linemen, decorated guys, Pro Bowl guys, but they never played together. So you got 5 guys with no chemistry, and David Carr gets sacked almost 100 times in his rookie career. I think it was 91 or 92 times. So it's not, and that's why I'm saying it's not a witch hunt, because Braylon very well could be very talented. Dan Villari has shown that he can work his way onto the field. There's guys that are coming from these places, from the Michigans and the Floridas and the Alabamas and whatnot, but it's learning. It's who's already there. Carlos Del Rio Wilson, people hear Florida and they go, he must be good. Where was he on the depth chart? He could have been the 4th guy in quarterback in Florida. Florida could have turned around and said, that's a Mullen guy. I don't want him here. I'm Billy Napier.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? It's a lot of different things that go into it. And what we're really getting down to that all these guys know is wherever they came from, whatever stars they had, they have to work. They have to put it together. And I'm hoping that all these guys succeed at Syracuse and wherever they are, because number one, the game is finite. You won't play it forever. Number two, it's a beautiful game that I want people to play freely and have fun doing. Number three, above all things, these kids are living their dreams, and I want them to be happy in their life. So everything we say here on the show is to help and to really just create some context for this wild, wild west that we have. Because the reality of it all is, LeQuint Allen is a guy that didn't start at Texas or Arkansas or Alabama or TCU or USC. He came to Syracuse. That was the school he chose. He came in as a true freshman. He had to wait his turn behind Sean Tucker, and now he's a pretty darn good back. So, you can find your diamonds in the rough. You can find your Donovan Browns. You can find your Isaiah Johnsons. You can find your Elijah Clarks. You can find your Derek McDonalds. You can find your Brady Denenbergs. But so many people get caught up in, we got this guy from Clemson. And it's like, that guy might never start on the team.
Right. And then again, you got to come in and work your way up to the new scheme. Some players just, like you said, maybe not catching it as fast as other ones. Or you got guys that's coming off an injury from another place and they got to rehab and they got to build their body back up. And how much Dino always talks about this team and conditioning. You might bring in some good offensive linemen, but are they conditioned to run this style offense that, all that stuff plays in and not saying these guys won't ever see the field. It just don't, you can't just say, oh man, this guy is coming from here. We got to automatically scrap the guy that was here before him and just put this guy in this place. So, the best is going to rise to the top, all that stuff is going to work itself out, but, getting back to the Clemson, though, hey, they're going through a rough patch, but like I say, I think week by week they're getting better. I don't think they've been blown out stat-wise in any games. It's just mistakes.
Yeah.
Young group of guys trying to get it together their first time out. It's your show, but they're out here making mistakes and stuff. And I don't think Syracuse, we've seen Purdue, we've seen Army, we've seen some guys that got some big bodies, so we shouldn't be shocked when we see this Clemson team. And yeah, they're a good quality group of athletes, but again, we've been tested, I want to say, coming up to this. So I think they'll be ready for the challenge. And we've always played Clemson tough. That's the good thing about it. Yeah,
and it played Clemson tough when Clemson comes in as the number 2 ranked team in the nation coming off of a national championship. Played Clemson tough in Death Valley. So, there's positives that come from this with Syracuse. Another positive for Syracuse is they don't have to play Clemson every year now.
Yeah.
They play Florida State, Pittsburgh, and BC every year. And then you have, they play a 3-3-5, but the schedule is a 3-5-5.
Okay, yeah.
And so the schedule has the same 3 permanent opponents, at least for the next 4 seasons. Then you play, of the 10 remaining ACC schools, you play half of them, 5. That in year 1. In year 2, So let's call year one 2023, year two 2024. And that second year, you play the other half. That's the other 5. So 3, 5, 5. So every year you play the 3, then you play 5. You play these 5, and then you play the other 5 the next year. Then you go back to the previous 5 you played, and then the other 5 again. And whoever was home in year 1 is away in year 3. Home in year 2 is away in year 4, and vice versa. And that's how they work it, that if you spend 4 years in college football, you will face every team in the ACC twice, home and home, and you will face your 3 permanent rivals every single season, which Syracuse makes sense for BC and Pitt and makes no sense for Florida State.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, man, come on, cool. I would have took maybe like a Virginia Tech, somebody from the old Big East days or something like that. So
They give Syracuse too much of a chance to win.
yeah, why would we do that?
Why would you do that? You don't do that. You give Clemson Georgia Tech.
I would look at the other side. Florida State said, we got to play Syracuse. They're our rivals. We got to get with Syracuse.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Florida State said, look it. If anything reminds me of Tallahassee, it is upstate New York. And when they practice in a foot of snow and it's 91 degrees out here, darn it if we don't feel equal.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's your rival. You got cold, BC, Pitt, Syracuse. You got 12 degrees, 12 degrees, 12 degrees, 90 degrees in December. And one of these is not like the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the ACC turned around and said, well, would you rather play Duke? And back then, Syracuse would have said, yeah.
Heck yeah.
And now they said, how about now? How
Duke
about
who?
now? I don't know no Duke. And now Duke's playing Notre Dame here in week 5. And everyone has to take a double take it and look at the schedule and say, it's a 7:30 p.m. game on ABC and it's not a basketball game? Notre Dame at Duke. And guess what? I picked Duke. I picked Duke to win this game because Duke, man, they can score.
Yeah.
My guy Riley Leonard's a freaking beast. He chose between Syracuse and Duke, and he picked Duke. I aired my interview with him, and I had Syracuse fans saying, why would you even bother talking to this man if he didn't choose us? And I said, because I like building relationships with human beings. And now the starting quarterback of Duke and I are still tight. So, yeah, he didn't choose Syracuse, but you know who did? Garrett Schrader. So I feel like I won both ways because I get to talk to Garrett and Riley.
There you go.
I don't lose on that one.
But, Sam, I mean, he's seen, I don't know if Wake Forest played Duke every year.
I'm mad at Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman is a traitor.
Yeah.
Sam, I'm gonna start doing my Charles Barkley now. Sam Hartman is a traitor. he could have beat all these teams, and he decided to join the belly of the beast. He is a traitor. He is like San Antonio women. He in the belly of their beast. That's what Chuck said, not me.
But that's I
don't have any problem with San Antonio.
I would give Sam, a little bit of one up on that. He's been through the league how many times?
I'm mad at Sam Hartman. I'm mad at Sam Hartman. That man had some of the prettiest hair in the conference, and he could have come and beat everybody in and out of the ACC. And he joined. He went and listen. I'm gonna say it to you like this. Notre Dame hasn't sent a good quarterback to the NFL in like a billion years. And now if they send Sam Hartman, they'll go, he's our boy. And Dave Clawson will be like, the hell he is.
Exactly.
So the best chance for Notre Dame to have a quarterback in the NFL was to go find one in the transfer portal. Because it ain't working out.
Yeah.
No, between Joe Theismann and Sam Hartman, where have we been, Notre Dame? Ranked in the top 10 always. Deserving, no. But, I mean, that's the thing. It's hard. And Sam, I send you my love. I'm having fun. I'm joking. All I'm saying is you were leading Wake Forest. Y'all almost won the conference. Y'all almost went undefeated. And now you go to Notre Dame when you had a chance to keep pushing at Wake Forest like he's been doing. It's not like that team's been a bad team. So I just feel bad because it's not fair. Dave Clawson found the guy. Dave Clawson and his staff helped the guy. And now Notre Dame, it's like dating a girl for 4 years and then finding out she's going to the prom with somebody else. It's like, man, I like this girl when she had braces and she had glasses and she had pimples all over her face. Then senior year, her braces come off. She gets contacts. Her skin clears up. And Notre Dame is dating this girl right now. That's just messed up.
Yeah.
So Sam Hartman, all I'm saying is you should have went to the dance with the people that loved you when you had pimples.
Now let me ask you this: you mentioned it. Was he a traditional grad transfer, or was he like a COVID 6-year guy?
He was a traitor.
He let go.
He was a traitor. He's out here trading.
Yeah.
He went across enemy lines. That's what he did.
And I know the coach for Notre Dame was like, "Yeah, we try to make sure he was the right fit. Really, the league, you got to play the most you got to play the ACC. How many times? Let me see. Is it a hard choice to pick a quarterback that's been in the ACC?
Hey, ACC, you might want to cut off these ties with your non-ACC football school to realize that the only reason why Notre Dame's playing you is because they're recruiting.
Yeah. So the next quarterback, Riley Leonard. Notre Dame might have to get another quarterback in the future. So
Notre Dame's just going to get 1-year quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They're going to wait till you're the 4 or 5 year guy at any school. They're going to call Garrett Schrader after this year.
Come on.
They'll be like, we got a running quarterback in Notre Dame for the first time ever. Let's do it.
Come on down.
It makes no sense. I mean, it makes sense to Notre Dame, but it's just messed up, and I don't like it. And and again, Sam, I'm joking with you, but he was just building something, man.
Yeah,
he was building something, just like Brennan Armstrong at Virginia. But he had a coaching change, so I get that. Because what did Brennan Armstrong do? Brennan Armstrong goes to NC State. Who's the offensive coordinator? Coach Anai. Okay. So who does he get to work with? Coach Anai. And that can help him because obviously working with Coach Beck and Coach Anai was better than when he didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because we saw the dip after he had like a record year.
And it was strange last game he played with Virginia, too. And then what? Notre Dame's playing Wake Forest like the end of the season, towards the end of the season. So you're going to see that again. Guys leaving their previous school, going back playing those guys.
All I'm saying is, if Sam Hartman ever became a CEO of a company, it's a grocery store and it ends in Joe's and the first name is Trader.
So actually, he did play 5 seasons though, right? So he is using his 6th year for COVID.
Yeah.
So
you can't use that 6th year at Wake.
I guess you could have stayed at Wake too, huh?
Get your doctorate. That's ridiculous. Yeah, but look at what he's done. Okay, I'm just gonna paint a picture for you. Let's just paint a picture. Okay, Sam Hartman, completion percentage 55 to 56 to 58 to 58.2, 58.9, 63.1, 70.4. Now at Notre Dame, he threw for over 3,000 yards in back-to-back seasons, 4,200 plus in 2021, 3,700 plus in 2022, 39 touchdowns to 14 interceptions in 2021, 38 to 12 in 2022. And now, you see him go to Notre Dame, and obviously there's a lot of talented guys at Notre Dame. So Notre Dame is going to be able to, send him some receivers out there and have some, and have make some hay there. But you look at everything that he's been doing up to this point, and he had success where he was. So it's a tough pill to swallow. I think if you're a Wake Forest fan, knowing that somewhere in the world, Sam Hartman is out there dancing with somebody else.
No, it's tough. I think we're going to kind of see it as a basketball fan this year, too. We lost our center, same to the same effect, So, hey, and a point guard, so. Yeah.
Lost a bunch of people. And the thing is, Syracuse loses these guys, and you don't want to play. You don't see Syracuse going out there saying, hey, what we should schedule, like within the last couple of years, why don't we schedule Seton Hall? Hell no, they're not doing that. They're not going to play Kadari Richmond again. They're not stupid. They're not going to have the fans have to watch that.
Exactly.
But, you look back at I'm going to tell you the quarterbacks that have been around in recent Notre Dame history. Stop me when he's a starter in the NFL right now. Brady Quinn, Ian Book, Jimmy Clausen, Tommy Rees, Ron Powlus, Deshaun Kaiser, Jack Cohn, Brandon Wimbush, Did you stop me?
No.
No. Because the ones that we would talk about are Rick Meyer, Steve Beuerlein, Joe Theismann, Joe Montana. We're going back in time.
Yeah.
I think the last one
that had at least a decent career, just put it that way.
I think the
You had
last
some
one
guys
was
that had some starts, but they didn't pan out.
yeah, Rick Meyer was the last one.
Yeah.
Was 92. That we're really talking about a guy who went to the NFL, started for the Seahawks,
Had a decent career.
had a decent career, but that's not what you're seeing anymore. I mean, Wimbush, for goodness sakes, they let him go to UCF, and UCF had him for 5 minutes. We're like, yeah, but this guy's not going to be the starter, and it's just tough because Sam Hartman is the best that they've had, but he was also the best that Wake Forest had.
Yeah.
So I think the ACC can't even celebrate because they have to play Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Repeatedly, even though Notre Dame is not an ACC school, but they play almost as many conference games as every ACC school, but they're not an ACC school. Because
make it make sense.
We're going to keep 100% of our football income, and for all the other sports, you're going to divide up your income and give some to us. And the ACC went, sure. And I was like, what a dumb, what a stupid argument to make. That's like being married to someone who goes, I'm going to keep 100% of my income, and then I'm going to take part of your income that you make. That's what my ex-wife said to me. Where's she at now?
Or I get invited to your title game.
Yeah. My ex-wife said, I'm going to make money, and then you're going to give me some of your money. And I went, I hope the next guy takes that deal. I was like this, no deal. I pulled the box down. I said, Howie Mandel, we're going to keep playing, baby. I know there's my briefcase is up there. My lady's up there somewhere. Forget the briefcase. Give me that girl. I'll tell her. So let's get into Syracuse and Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
We're having an orange out, which I think is a really smart thing on Syracuse's part because all the Clemson fans that come wearing orange are going to look like Syracuse fans on TV. So to you, there will be 30,000 Syracuse fans. To us, we will know that some people in the stands are either Clemson fans or they were eating Cheetos and they slapped it on their chest like when that Cheetos with the paw, that Cheetos paw, because that's what I think of when I see that Clemson. I think of the Cheetos paw. So you're going to see all Syracuse fans. We're going to see Syracuse and Clemson, or Syracuse, Clemson, and the Cheetos guy running around the stadium just touching people's shirts with his paw.
Well, you're going to tell the difference between the fight song. You'll know who knows what
fight song. They'll be like, why are all these Syracuse fans doing the Clemson fight song? All I'm saying is when you got orange and purple and orange and blue, you should have had a blue out.
Yeah.
Or blue out. Because then if you get blown out, you're like, well, we promoted that. But when you promote an orange out, when you're playing an orange team, what you're really saying is we're just hoping to God they don't zoom in on the logos of the shirts.
Exactly.
And what I'm saying to Syracuse fans, show up to the game. Pack the stands. Mm-hmm. Make it difficult for anybody to get in the building. When you have a home game, you know what happens where other people go, Syracuse? I'm going to tell you because this is my hometown and I feel like I could say this. Mm. Because listen, when you leave the games, it hurts the players and they talk to me about it. And when you don't show up, it bothers them and they talk to me about it. So here, and they're, well, if they win, Dan, I'll show up. Well, when you don't win, they're like, why am I here? Mm. So here's my thing to you. Georgetown, when Syracuse is playing them in Georgetown shortens the amount of seats. They say, okay, 3,000 Syracuse fans come in, we're going to let 500 in. They make it difficult. Mm-hmm. They want to pack it. They want to make you not be able to get there.
We're taking over, baby. That's why.
What I would do is I would wear a Georgetown shirt, get in the building and take it off and be like, haha, your fault. So, or if I'm a Clemson, if you come in here as a Clemson fan, right, and you wear a Syracuse shirt for the orange out because you ought to be able to get your tickets cheaper, or you want to chill with Otto's Army, and then you come in and you get your Cheetos and you slap the paw on there and you say, take it. But the reality of it all is Syracuse fans, if you show up and you're consistent and you buy season tickets, then Clemson fans or anybody else can't get in as easy because you bought the tickets. So if you want to be louder in the dome, you have to show up. If you want you to be the team that is the most, or the fan base that's the most vibrant, you have to stay the whole game, and you have to be there for your team. And if you want to make it not look like it's an away game at home, then you have to make your orange make more sense than the other orange that's trying to get into the building. So the way you do this is you show up to the game. That's how you minimize this. On the flip side of that, I do have to say something about Clemson. They travel with money, and they come in to the exit air side of our airport on their private jets with their dog and their whole family. So I'm going to say two things. Number one, that's some gangster stuff. And I'm going to say number two, I am born and raised in Syracuse, and I love Syracuse. All I'm saying is, to the single South Carolinian women that come in this weekend, what's up? That's all I'm saying.
The boys out there.
What's up? So, hey, listen, as long as you wear orange on game day.
Yeah, we all family.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be like, you better take that shirt and put it inside out. Be like, my parents are coming over. That better look like a Syracuse shirt. So, Syracuse face it off against Clemson. Thoughts about 2-2 Clemson, 4-0 Syracuse?
Coming into the game, I think Syracuse got all the confidence in the world, which they should, with all they've done so far in the season. You know, and Clemson got the chip on their shoulder. The nation, everybody's naysayers saying, "Oh, okay, they're not the Clemson who they always known them to be." So they're coming in here to prove something, you know. But we're trying to keep our dreams alive. You know, Syracuse, they're going to have to play a clean game, you know. Got to be physical because that's the type of game it's going to be. But you just can't make mistakes. You can't give up the ball. There's a chance. I mean, if Duke can do it, I think Syracuse is just as good as that Duke team that's out here. But again, Duke took advantage of turnovers. Duke did everything, you know. When Clemson made mistakes in the red zone, they capitalized on it. So that's the type of game you're going to have.
Yeah.
If not, you know, you're going to come down to the end just like last week where, you know, are we going to let Clemson bring out the special teams unit and cross our fingers to hope to go in overtime and beat them in overtime or whatever the case may be? But, you know, this Clemson team's not going to lay down. But I think, like I say, Syracuse is just going to have to play a very clean game, limit the penalties, be smart about it, you know. You know, if you got an opportunity to take chances, take them. But, you know, play field position with these guys, make them earn every yard they're going to get.
Yeah.
But you can't give it up to them because you give it up to them, it's going to be a long day.
Well, that's the thing. Giving a team like, I mean, and that's what you're saying, giving a team like Clemson any extra possessions.
Mm-hmm.
So what Syracuse has to do is defensively, they have to continue to turn the ball over. They have to get teams to make mistakes. You know, Syracuse has been great this season at getting teams to turn the ball over. We thought last year they started off strong. This year, their consistency in every single game, making you turn the ball over by interception, by a forced fumble, whatever it may be. Syracuse is creating the turnovers. So you have to create the turnovers, capitalize off the turnovers, and not have turnovers yourself. Mm-hmm. So if we just simply say the word turnover, it's take them away, don't make them, and capitalize on the ones you do, because getting a turnover and doing nothing with it means absolutely nothing. Yes, you took time off the clock, but at the end of the day, if you're not scoring and taking time off the clock, well, I mean, you're still giving the ball back to the other team, and as much as you're condensing the clock, a team like Clemson doesn't need your help.
Yeah, and then you said
nobody does.
Yeah, you got to control the ball, and you know, turnovers, like, you got to have the turnover battle, because the key part though is we can't let Clemson play the bully like they do every year. When they get in trouble, their defense clamps down on us. We can't score.
Yeah, and they start running the ball.
Exactly, and I was going to say, as long as we could keep scoring and keep the pressure on them, kind of like the last game with Army. Yeah, we know what Army's about. They'll ground and pound. You know, they're going to keep it close into the fourth quarter. But if you put that pressure like they did in the second half, you take them out of their comfort zone. Now, you get them doing things that they're not saying that out accustomed to, but they don't want to do, taking more risk. then the defense can get turnovers and other things like that. So
You got to be
or
more
sack.
aggressive.
Exactly. So scoring, not just getting turnovers, but scoring and putting the pressure back on them is definitely going to be a key to victory.
Yeah, and so as we look at this, to look at them by the numbers, to break it down here, Syracuse has 44 points a game through 4 games.
I like that number.
Clemson has 42.3, by the way, and that number 44 continues to show up. My dad and I went to dinner last night. The total was 44-44. Syracuse is averaging 44 points a game through 4 weeks. We saw 44 3 times in one game. Then I saw 44 again after that. So all I'm saying is, Floyd, I hear you. I love you, my friend. Just guide me to what you're trying to say. Total touchdowns through 4 games for Syracuse, 23. For Clemson, 24. Clemson has 110 first downs through 4 weeks. Syracuse has 107, so seeing how close everything is. Rushing first downs, Clemson 45, Syracuse 42. Passing first downs, Clemson has 58, Syracuse has 53. So very, very close here. Third down efficiency, 25 of 53 is Clemson. Syracuse is 27 of 54. Syracuse is 50% efficient on third down, which is great. Clemson is 47.17. On fourth down, Clemson's 3 of 8, which is 37.5%. Syracuse is 2 for 5, 40%, so they're above them there too, and they've taken less of those. We look at as far as it goes overall in passing yards per game, 294.5 for Syracuse, 275.3 for Clemson. Passing touchdowns, Clemson has 10, Syracuse has 12. As far as total offensive plays through 4 weeks, Syracuse has 310, Clemson has 321. Total yards, Syracuse through 4 weeks on offense has 2,031. Clemson has 1,897. Yards per game, Syracuse is averaging 507.8 yards per game. Clemson, 474.3. So you're looking at very close numbers all the way through. Syracuse winning in some of these categories. I want to take a look at some other things here that are important. And so as far as punting, Syracuse has punted 11 times in 4 games, where in the past it felt like Syracuse punted 11 times in 1 game. And so, and Clemson's punted 9 times in the last 4 games that they played in. Pardon me. They have punted 13 times, so they punted more than Syracuse. I was reading that, how many times they were punted too. Gotcha. So Syracuse has punted 11 times in 4 games. Clemson's punted 13 times. As far as penalties, Syracuse has 31 penalties for 302 yards. Clemson has 16 penalties for 140, so they have about half there. And then time of possession, Clemson is averaging 32 minutes and 20 seconds per game of possession out of 60 minutes. Syracuse is averaging 28.57 in that time period. And as far as fumbles, Syracuse has fumbled 6 times and lost 2 of them. Clemson has fumbled 7 times and lost 5 of them. The turnover ratio, Clemson is 0. Syracuse is +5. And that was another thing. Dino said this is a top 5 team if not for turnovers, talking about Clemson.
Exactly. And you definitely got to take care of the ball. And when you was running down the stats, I was thinking, we probably could be even a little better, because you could take out of our 4 victories, our starters played probably only really 3 games total, because they sat second half of Colgate, and they pretty much
and the ball went on the ground with a backup quarterback.
Exactly. So we probably could be doing a little bit better than, exactly. The backups maybe fumble a couple of times. And those 2 fumbles that we lost were backups in the red zone. And
so Syracuse's starters have no fumbles lost.
Right. So, and you can see how even they are. That's why I said both teams are kind of even, but it's just who's going to make the mistake. Who shows up on a particular day. You got to come out and be ready to play.
Yeah, absolutely. So these teams are more evenly matched than you might suspect when you think of Clemson's history recently and Syracuse's over the last couple decades. But Syracuse leading in some categories and doing some things better than Clemson, or right there with Clemson in most cases. And so shout out to Syracuse for that. The penalties are the issue with Syracuse. 31 penalties to Clemson 16 is the biggest glaring issue for Syracuse. The biggest glaring issue for Clemson is having 7 fumbles, losing 5, and having their turnover ratio be even right now, and Syracuse being +5 in turnovers. So the biggest blunder, turnovers for Clemson, penalties for Syracuse.
Yeah. That's why I say you got to have a clean game. You got to limit them to a minimum as much as possible, because
can't let them get in your head.
Again, you change yourself. You get off schedule and trying to get first downs, and then hey, that's when they're going to bring blitzes. They're going to put the spy on Schrader. They know what we're going to who makes who's our bread and butter guy. So, but the more we can keep them guessing where we're going with the ball, instead of saying, because even Dabo mentioned in his press conference, he's like, yeah, the quarterback guy was 3rd and long against Purdue. He runs for a first down. 3rd and long again, he runs for a touchdown. So guess what they're going to key on? They're going to key on keeping Schrader in the pocket
and keeping long,
or just keeping somebody on them. So the more we can stay on schedule, not take pre-snap penalties and get off schedule, then hey, the better it's going to be for our guys.
Yeah, you want to see Syracuse minimize the false starts on offense and stupid penalties. You don't want to. This is a game where you're, obviously penalties in general, but this is a game where if Syracuse has 2 or more false starts and are running into the kicker penalty, there could be some issues.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to be smart on this stuff. You got to pick your chances. And this is a team that has veterans. This is a team that has guys that have grown up in the system like Justin Barron. And so there's a lot of good to be had here. It's about locking down, staying focused, and taking care of business. This is a big test, and it's a big threat. If Syracuse wins this game, they should be ranked. They should already be ranked based on the other teams that are ranked. So Syracuse at worst should be 25 right now. I can argue up and down this college football poll. And before we leave, I couldn't leave a show without
putting yourself through this pain.
Without flipping out about this. So, looking at it right now, hey, Florida State's 4-0, but they had to drop a spot because Ohio State had to get back in the top 4. Who did Ohio State beat, you ask? Notre Dame. What'd I say about Notre Dame? They were ranked number 9 in the country. What'd I say, Isaac? They're going to fall a few spots. I said they're going to fall a couple spots. Where'd they fall, Isaac?
Well, I can't even
2 spots. 2 spots. Quality loss. It was a quality loss.
There you go.
Ohio State has beaten nobody, but losing to Ohio State is a quality loss. Alabama, they'll find their way back up. LSU, doing all right. North Carolina's 4-0, but they're behind a couple teams that have 1 loss. Washington State is 4-0. Nobody can tell me why. Oregon State's 3-1, and Syracuse is still not ranked. Oregon State was 14th in the nation, beating absolutely nobody. Now they lost to Washington State, who has beaten also nobody, and they're both in the top 25, and Oregon State's 19th in the country. Their games are a win over San Jose State, UC Davis, San Diego State, and a loss to Washington State. And they're 3-1, and Syracuse is 4-0, and they're 19th, and Syracuse can't even be in this thing.
Yeah.
Fresno State
we both beat Purdue.
Yeah, and how about this? Fresno State is 4-0. They're in it. They beat Purdue on the road, 39-35. What was Syracuse's win margin? 15. What was Fresno State's win margin? 4. And they beat Eastern Washington at Arizona State and against Kent State. So I guess the Arizona State game that was against an unranked team helped them out because it was from Arizona. And then we look at, Missouri. Missouri is in the top 25 now. Missouri beat Kansas State, who is ranked. So there you go on that one. Then they beat South Dakota, Middle Tennessee, and Memphis. None of those schools were ranked at the times that they played them. But here we are. Georgia's number 1 still. Michigan's number 2 because the people that sit in the background and pet cats in the dark and don't call themselves Dr. Evil but look just like them, they put Michigan at number 2 to start the season. They beat East Carolina unranked, UNLV unranked, Bowling Green unranked, Rutgers unranked. They will play unranked Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State, Purdue until they play their first ranked team in November.
We need to get their schedule.
Why can't Syracuse be in the Big Ten? So, yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. And the FCS poll, you actually have to like do things. So shout out to the FCS Division One AA, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Montana State, William and Mary. Shout out to my dude Daniel Booby Santiago from Utica, New York. Holy Cross is 5th in the country right now. Say word. And so I'm very excited for them. And, you know, I want to give a shout out to the top 5 in Division 2. Ferris State, Colorado School of Mines, Pittsburgh State, without a G. And then you have Minnesota State and Ouachita Baptist. Division 3 top 5, North Central, Mount Union, Wisconsin Whitewater. These teams are good, and they're good in multiple sports. Wartburg College and Wisconsin River Falls. So Wisconsin has 2 teams in the top 5 in Division 3, and in Division 1, they have 0. But they usually start in the top 25 because you can't. Because when you're in the Big Ten and your name's Wisconsin, you got to start there. So Washington is 4-0. Let's see who Washington beat. They are 7th in the nation. Washington beat no ranked teams. Okay, let's move on with life. And so I'm just stating my case, folks. I could do an entire comedy hour on stage if Isaac handed me the rankings 5 minutes before and I got to walk with them onto the stage. So yeah, let's see who Utah played. I know that they beat Florida, right? So they beat unranked Florida, unranked Baylor, unranked Weber State, and beat 22nd ranked in the country UCLA at home 14-7. That's what Utah did. And what else can we say here? Who else should we look at? I already talked about Oregon State.
Kansas.
And you want to look? Oh yeah, let's look at Kansas because you want me to get mad. They beat Missouri State, Illinois, Nevada, and BYU. 3 out of 4 of those games were at home. None of those teams are ranked. And guess what? They're somehow better than Syracuse, who played no ranked teams as well. And if Syracuse beats Clemson, what will the committee say? Well, they're not ranked. Make it make sense.
Yeah.
So Florida State should be in the top 3, but you got to put Michigan and Ohio State up there. In the coaches poll they did, and when I say you gotta, I'm being facetious. I'm saying they gotta. I wouldn't, unless they earned it. How about this?
I mean, Florida State beat LSU. Come on.
How about Michigan? Okay, here. Okay, I'm gonna make a pact with Michigan and Ohio State right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna make an agreement with them right now. If you agree to play anybody who anyone knows in Division 1 in non-conference who's ranked and has won a bowl game in the last 35 years, if you can play a New Year's 6 college football playoff caliber team in non-conference, at least one of them, I will consider putting you in the top 5. But if you continue to play a bunch of unranked East Bumbletuckies, I will continue to say that this is utter BS. And to the Michigan and Ohio State fans, this is not an attack on you. It's not an attack on your school. It's not an attack on the coaches. It's not an attack on the student athletes. It's an attack on the fact that you know you have an unfair advantage. And as a Notre Dame fan said to me, Dan, everything you said is absolutely correct. And as a Notre Dame fan, I know that. And he giggled because he knows it's wrong. It's like when everybody gets a lollipop and somebody gets 3. And they giggle because they know everybody else got 1 and they don't want to give back the 2 that they have, but they know that it's wrong that they got 2 more. So, Michigan, Ohio State, enjoy playing a bunch of nobody teams, unranked teams. The only teams that they play are ranked in their conference, and the only reason why they're ranked in their conference is because they're in the Big Ten. So what we're essentially saying is arguably every single year they play no ranked teams that would be ranked based on what they actually do in a season. So if you play 12 unranked teams, should you be in the top 2?
Or talk about how powerful your conference is or what this and that. So, come on.
And how many college football playoffs have y'all won? I think, did y'all win 1? Did you win 1? So I'm gonna fact check myself here in the college football playoff history.
Yeah, I think Ohio State.
I'm pretty sure Ohio State, that's the only one I'm thinking. 1-1. But let's look at this right now. College football playoff history. If my computer, somebody in the Big Ten tapped into my computer. Okay, here we go. So, you're like, you ain't gonna get this in.
Cut the plug.
So, looking at college football playoff history, let's go back here now. All right. And as we look at it, we go back to 2014, 15. And so let's see here. National champions. So 2014, yeah, that was the Ohio State one. Mm-hmm. Ohio State over Oregon. So that was Big Ten, Pac-12. Then it was SEC, ACC. SEC, ACC. SEC, SEC. SEC, ACC. SEC, ACC. Then it was SEC, Big Ten. Then it was SEC, SEC. Then it was SEC, Big 12. Uh-huh. So, hey, Michigan, how many championships have you made? Mm-hmm. Hey, Michigan, how many championships have you won? Mm-hmm. Hey, Michigan, how about you just don't play a game until the last week of the season and you'll still be the second in the country?
It's like the COVID year.
Yeah.
We just come in halfway at the back end of the season and still get
I will never forget, Clint. I will never, ever forget Michigan rising 4 spots in the rankings when they were 0-0. I will never forget that. Because it stated everything that I had said forever. It was like hiding in plain sight. Mm-hmm. It was like going, yeah, there's a shadow society, but we're going to step into the sun. That's exactly what they did. So, beat somebody out of your conference. Play somebody out of your conference. Dan, we don't have to. The Big Ten is hard enough. No, the Big Ten has an unfair treatment. Mm-hmm. Play somebody else of merit. And the teams that you're bringing in are from the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 never makes it to the college football playoff. So the Big Ten, even with what you're adding, you didn't add any SEC schools.
That's why they're all ranked, though.
Because they're coming into the Big Ten. They know it. The Big Ten with 18 schools is going to have 12 ranks. You're going to have to deal with the fact that half of the top 25 is going to be in the Big Ten.
And not playing nobody.
And they're not going to have to play anybody. We're going to sit out this year. All right, well, if you guys want to be in the college football playoff, just call us. So
There's money to be made?
Yeah. Remember when the Pac-12 and the Big Ten said, we will not play. Why? Because we care about the safety of our student athletes. 4 weeks into the season, the SEC's playing? Yeah. They making money? Yeah. The ACC playing? Yeah.
Alabama got a full packed house.
Yeah. SEC playing? Yeah, they making money? Right. Notre Dame let their fans on the field? Well, you know what? I think the safety's going to be all right.
Yeah, we good.
You cared about the safety until you... this is what I like in it, too. It's a bunch of people going, I'm not going to Stacy's party because if I don't go, nobody will go. Oh, they just posted that on Instagram. Oh, they're there? Oh, she's there, too? Well, if we don't go, we're going to be the only ones not there.
Exactly.
And that's what happened. And then they went. And you know what? They held the spot for them. They said, hey, guys, whenever you get here,
we'll play 5 games. We'll play 5 games.
Yeah. Hey.
Oh, no, I can't play before. Yeah. Can I still come?
Yeah. Wait. How many games do I have to play to get into the Big Ten championship? I got to play 6? But I'm Ohio State. You're right. We'll kick out Northwestern. They don't need to be there. Oh, so we advance with 5? Yeah. But we're supposed to play 8. True. Okay. Well, we got some guys with COVID. Don't worry about it. We're going to move the college football playoff start time. Why? Well, we want to make sure you're healthy enough.
Mm-hmm. Make it make sense.
And then they're sitting here going, well, Ohio State played Clemson that really well that year in the college football playoff because they played half a season.
They would just get warmed up.
You're playing guys played 8 or 9 games. They played 5. Yeah, I think I would be good too if I'm playing a team. If I'm playing LeBron and he played 82 games and I'm the Toronto Raptors and I played 11, yeah, give me LeBron. Why don't you give me LeBron the day after he played? Damn. Common sense would kill all the nonsense in America. How about this? How about we have the college football playoff and it's called common sense versus nonsense? And it's the teams that deserve to be there versus the Big Ten and Notre Dame.
Well, I got a suggestion. Syracuse is 4-0. We want to stop right now. when the rankings come
We're
out
gonna
for
wait.
the flow, we want to come back into the picture. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, and you know what they'll say? We don't know no Syracuse. It doesn't make any sense. Play competition. Face someone outside your conference. Stop resting on the laurels of the fact that you're going to be ranked high because the media and the coaches and the College Football Playoff Committee, for some odd reason, owe you something. And actually do it. And again, this is not an attack on the Big Ten, even though I'm saying Big Ten and Notre Dame, but what I'm saying is anybody who has the unfair advantage. Anyone who does. And why aren't you saying Georgia, Dan? Because Georgia won back-to-back national championships. Because Georgia has proven themselves. Georgia may not be playing ranked teams right now, but Georgia is playing a tougher schedule as we come down the pipeline. I would take a 3-1 Alabama right now over Ohio State or Michigan.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: so with the whole, after this year and going to the new football setup, do you think that giving more incentive for these teams to play other teams in the non-conference? Now that
No, now Ohio State and Michigan are both going to get in every year. They don't have to do anything.
But how does okay, yeah, because some conference gonna have qualifiers, and then you're gonna have other people they're gonna vote in.
As long as you win your conference championship.
Yeah, but then they still gonna have a couple of spots left over.
At large.
Yeah,
the 6 at large.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know that whoever wins the Big Ten between Ohio State and Michigan, the loser will be in, and Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. So that's 2 of the 6. So now there's 4 spots left. Mm-hmm. And then they'll go SEC, put a 2 in there. Mm-hmm. So now there's 2 spots left. Mm-hmm. And then they'll say, Oregon State's undefeated and Syracuse is undefeated. Come here, Oregon State. That's what they'll do. And what I say in the last show, I don't like beavers.
But it's true. It's true.
I feel like Syracuse, if they go 12-0 and Oregon State goes 12-0 and somehow the Beavers get into something that Syracuse doesn't get into, it should be like Beavers ... and on the back it goes, damn. That would be great. At least let me have fun with the fact that this is all BS. Rankings should mean something.
Yeah.
But Fresno State, Oregon State, Washington State, no offense to you whatsoever, you have no argument above Syracuse. Mm-hmm. None. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Syracuse deserves to be in or Fresno State. I'm not saying Oregon State, Washington State, Fresno State, Syracuse have done enough to be in. Right. I'm saying if those 3 are in and Syracuse is not, then one of these is like the other, and they're not there. I'm saying if you're going to let them in, then you need to let Syracuse in.
Right.
Duke deserves to be in there. They do not deserve to be 17th. They are 4-0. They deserve to be above Washington State. They deserve to be above the teams that have lost a game. Mm-hmm. So, to me, and if Duke beats Notre Dame, Duke is 17th in the AP, 16 in the coaches. Notre Dame is 11 in the AP, 13th in the coaches. I'm going to tell you what I told you last week because they won't take Notre Dame out of top 25. They could lose like 4 games. If Notre Dame loses to Duke, Duke will jump 2 spots, maybe 3 is pushing it. Duke will crack into the top 15. They will argue keeping Notre Dame within the top 17 if they lose to Duke.
Mm-hmm. No, I believe it. And then...
telling you this right now.
Look, Florida beat Tennessee, but who's ahead of who?
Yeah. Florida beat Tennessee. They're both 3-1, and they said Florida deserves to be below Tennessee. No. Makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And you're telling me Miami is not a better team than Washington State? Mm-hmm. They're behind Washington State. Yeah. So the rankings, as coaches tell you, they mean nothing, and they should mean nothing. But unfortunately, the AP and the coaches poll helps to set up the college football playoff. The college football playoff, whoever they rank the first week of the college football playoff rankings is who they want in. It's basically them giving you the blueprint of what they want.
Right.
And then you have to make them not want it. And they'll set teams up so it's impossible. The year that UCF went undefeated, they came in so low that they couldn't argue them from 18 to 4, and they knew that. So no matter how many games they won, they're like, they're not going to jump 14 spots. And they put other teams so high that they're like, well, we can't take them out that far.
Or you make them to automatically eliminate each other. Michigan, Ohio State. Somebody's going to lose. Guess what? We got our Big Ten school in here.
Yeah, this is what I think. These are my rules. If Michigan and Ohio State don't play for the Big Ten championship, none of them deserve to be in.
Exactly.
And my other rule is, if Ohio State or Michigan does not make the Big Ten championship, they don't deserve to be in it. And whatever team, if you're going to put another Big Ten team in, then consider putting the team in that made it in there. Consider that. Not that they have. Well, all I'm saying is, if Ohio State and Michigan are going to make it every year, then just say that.
Right.
Just come out and say Michigan, because it's been proven Alabama's not guaranteed anything. Utah's not guaranteed. Oregon's not guaranteed. USC's not guaranteed. North Carolina, Duke, Miami, Clemson, even, for goodness sakes, they're not guaranteed anything. But Michigan and Ohio State, between the two of them since 2014-15, in almost 10 years of the college football playoff, cumulatively, they've won one championship, which was the first year of it, and somehow they're guaranteed 1 to 2 spots every year when they've only won one championship.
Yeah.
So I'll put it to you like this. Syracuse and Michigan have won the same amount of college football playoffs, but Syracuse never got a chance to lose one. Michigan's had chances to lose them. Many. So with that being said, Wolverines, nighty-night. But
enjoy it.
But this is the thing. Again, I'm talking about the teams that have the unfair advantage. I'm stating the unfair advantage. And so you're hearing Michigan, Big Ten, Ohio State, Notre Dame, because those are the teams that have it. But you could cut and paste. If it was somebody else, I would call out the same thing.
Right.
There's times where the ACC would have had it in the past, maybe. There's times where the SEC, you're like, okay, come on, can they really have this many teams? There are times where you can argue other places. But I mean, you could argue that the Big 12 never had to play defense and Oklahoma was always going to make it. So there are unfair moments, and if you check the tape, I've stated them. It's just the fact that the most egregious party fouls come with the Big 10 and Notre Dame. So at this point, Notre Dame should join the Big 10 because they're already treated like it. But I want to say this one more time because I think it sounded good. Michigan, night-night! Oh, boy. We'll talk with you all soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. We'll see you at the game for Tortora and
Alfred.
Onway.